giving is as good for the giver as it is for the receiver. Science says it's so. We'll be happier, healthier, and even, odds are, live a little longer if we're generous.
Stephen Post is author of the soon-to-be-released book, Why Good Things Happen to Good People.
You could say giving is selfish behavior because it helps us.
If you want to define selfishness so widely as to include the warm glow that people feel in the aftermath of selflessly giving to others, well, guess what? We need more of it, not less of it.
So all you billionaires and millionaires and regular folks, get out. Give your money or your time. You'll help someone else, and you'll feel good, too.
Well, good evening. It's such a delight to be here. I can't tell you how impressed I am with the musical celebration here, and of course to be present with someone who has had faith in the dream, Dr. Schuler, who has inspired me for many years. I thank him for his generous introduction. I must say the short version is he's the guy from Cleveland who has a lot to live up to tonight. I think we have a bit of a slideshow that I was going to use for my talk. Do we have that set up? We don't? No, okay. Well, we don't, so that's good. We'll improvise. In listening to Dr. Schuler speak of hospitality, by the way, I was reminded of a joke. Now, I'm half Irish. My mother's maiden name was McGee, so I can tell a few Irish jokes and get away with it and be politically correct in the process. So Dr. Schuler mentioned hospitality, and I was reflecting on the Irish definition of hospitality, which is to make someone feel perfectly at home while you be a-wishing they were. By the way, my Irish definition of dementia, you forget everything but your grudges. But that may be universal. I come here and I stand in this cathedral, and I'm really humbled, and I'm terribly inspired. I know on these hallowed grounds there is a beautiful statue called the Widow's Mite, and at the base of that statue is a bronze inscription, "The Joy of Giving." If there's one single message that I'd like to share with you and dialogue around over these next several days, it is just that, the joy of giving, the fullness of giving. I do have a favorite passage in the New Testament, Acts 20. "'Tis better to give than to receive." And that gets echoed, of course, in the famous prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. "'Tis better to love than to be loved." Is that true? I ask my colleagues in a busy, scientific, academic medical center, do they believe this? Or does it just sound like poppycock? And of course, it's hard to get people to understand that giving is so deeply a part of our inherent nature. When I think of Jesus, I think of the genius of giving, of agape love. It's sometimes very difficult, I think, to speak abstractly about love. Give me a definition. It's not a simple matter. But we can certainly all talk about the expressions of love or the manifestations of love. So you think about Jesus and his forgiveness. The stories of his forgiveness are phenomenal. You think of Jesus and his capacity to listen attentively. He was the greatest listener we've ever known. You think about his creativity. The parables, the words he spoke were so creative that they were really the mark of genius. His teaching, his loyalty, his generativity, his desire to pass the torch of love to the future. Jesus was really then the great manifestation of love. And for all time, we have faith in that. Now, here's a funny story for you. About 5 years ago, I was sitting in my office in Cleveland. By the way, in Cleveland, we get 87 days of sunshine a year on average, just to make that contrast with here in Southern California. I was sitting in my office and I received a fax from a multi-billionaire in Nassau in the Bahamas by the name of Sir John Templeton, a Christian man. He asked me if I would be willing to start an institute for the study of unlimited love. It's an interesting expression, and I thought twice about it. Of course, you could talk about Christian love in terms of limitlessness, a love that isn't just for the nearest and the dearest, but that is for all of humanity, that is exceptionless, that embraces even those who have, in fact, had difficult lives. I like to say, if we're honest in our hearts, most of us have lived one life that we learned from and another life that is better. I know that's my case, if I'm honest with myself. So I said yes, and Sir John promptly forwarded a check for about $5 million. And we started a project, the Institute for Research on Unlimited Love, with faith in a dream. I sometimes would look at a picture of the Crystal Cathedral back in the gray skies of Cleveland, and I'd think about people like Dr. Schuller. And here I am trying to build a dream, but in the context of a very rigorous scientific environment. How can I translate faith in agape love into a world of real highbrow, skeptical, empirical science? Well, over the years, we've been able to fund about 70 studies on agape love, bringing together high-level researchers and theologians at 70 different universities: Harvard, Yale, Chicago, Stanford, UCLA, the whole works. We've been able to have course competitions nationally. We've funded dozens and dozens of courses on the interface of science and agape love in high schools and colleges and universities and medical schools around the United States. We've produced more than 60 books on everything from the experience that Pentecostalists have of divine love, the so-called flame of love, to the evolution of altruism in the human species. I've been really blessed, I think, to be able to spearhead this initiative where evolution, religion, neurology, social science, psychology, faith, human development all become a gateway to a shared humanity. You know, we live in perilous times, and part of the reason why we are in such difficulty is because those people who really do have a love for all humanity without exception are typically killed, frankly, by those who are imperiled by the very idea of our being equally the children of God. Think about it. Martin Luther King had a universal love. He was killed by a white racist. Mahatma Gandhi loved Buddhists, he loved Hindus, he loved Muslims, and he was killed by a fanatical Hindu. Rabin seemed to love Muslims and Jews and Christians, and he was killed by a radical Jew. Bonhoeffer, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the great pastor, the great Lutheran pastor who went back to Germany in 1932 to work with the Confessing Church and to separate Christianity from Nazism. Bonhoeffer ultimately, because he loved all humanity, died in a prison in 1945 at the hands of Hitler, who loved only Aryans and who hated Jews. You could look at the whole history of humanity. And what you would find, I think, is that people who reach this incredible love of humanity, this sense of a shared humanity, which I think Jesus manifested supremely, those people are cut down one by one.